Welcome back to the podcast. So, today's episode is on a supplement I think everyone should be taking. Even my mom takes it, and that is creatine. Creatine is one of the most researched and effective supplements available, yet, still, for some reason, I have no idea why, but it has a handful, more than a handful of myths and common misconceptions that are associated with it. So, I was talking to my friend the other day, and this is a guy who isn't the healthiest, drinks alcohol pretty heavily on the weekends, and was contemplating creatine. Now, personally, I don't get it. He thought it could cause hair loss, and my response was, we now know that's not true and have known for quite some time. So, first, I want to talk about how creatine works in this episode, then the major benefits we get from it, and then towards the end, I 100% need to debunk some common myths like kidney health, bloating, hair loss, and a few more pretty crazy ones I've heard. So, how does creatine actually work? Well, creatine plays a crucial role in the body's energy production system. So, when we engage in high intensity activities, whether that's lifting weights or running or quick bursts of effort, could be in sports, the body relies heavily on what's called adenosine triphosphate, otherwise known as ATP. It's like the body's energy currency. However, ATP depletes pretty quickly. It only lasts a few seconds before it then needs to be regenerated. And this is where creatine comes in. Stored in muscle cells as phosphocreatine, it helps rapidly regenerate ATP, allowing you to then sustain higher intensity of efforts for longer periods of time. So this can then translate into pushing out an extra rep in the gym, sprinting potentially a little longer, or recovering faster between explosive movements in like a sports context. And creatine is actually naturally produced in the body, primarily in the liver from amino acids like arginine, glycine, and methionine. It's also found in dietary sources, particularly in red meat and seafood. However, getting enough creatine solely from food is quite challenging. I wouldn't say nearly impossible, but nearly impossible. And this is why supplementation can be highly beneficial, ensuring that our muscle cells are fully saturated with phosphocreatine for optimal performance. Now, beyond just fueling short bursts of activity, creatine can also contribute to, it does also contribute to muscle cell hydration because it draws water into the muscle cells. So this creates a more anabolic environment that supports protein synthesis and muscle growth. And this is one reason people often notice an increase in muscle fullness or muscle size when they begin supplementing with creatine. Contrary to the myth that creatine contributes to or causes bloating, it only contributes to intramuscular water retention, which means it makes you literally look bigger and improves overall performance. It doesn't contribute to extracellular fluid, which is the fluid people talk about when they think they get bloated or their face get bloated. Now, another key function of creatine is the impact on glycogen storage. There's some research that suggests that creatine supplementation can increase the amount of glycogen stored in muscles, which is pretty huge. And it means that creatine isn't just for weightlifters, it's also beneficial, highly beneficial for endurance athletes as well. So, overall, creatine acts as an energy reserve, a muscle hydrator, you could call it, and a glycogen enhancer is the way we could put it, which is why it's one of the most widely recommended supplements in the world. So now, what are some of the benefits? Let's get deeper into the benefits of creatine because it's best known for its role in muscle growth and strength, but its benefits actually go far beyond just your performance in the gym or your performance for endurance training. One of its most compelling advantages is its effect on cognitive function. This is one of the reasons I have my mom taking it, since the brain also relies on ATP for energy. Creatine plays a role in maintaining mental clarity, focus, and memory, and research has shown that creatine supplementation can improve working memory and executive function, particularly in individuals who are either sleep deprived, under, let's say, heavy stress or high cognitive load, or following a traumatic brain injury like a TBI. So, in addition to the cognitive benefits, and there's research showing out there's some benefits towards Alzheimer's as well. Creatine supplementation has been found to enhance recovery and reduce muscle damage following intense exercise. So that's going to improve your recovery capacity and recovery time. Studies have shown that creatine reduces markers of muscle damage as well as inflammation. So you're going to get from that essentially quicker recovery between your workouts, so you can potentially do more volume in the gym, which will lead to more muscle growth. And above that, it's been studied for potential neuroprotective effects. So there is some preliminary research that suggests creatine may help mitigate, like I said, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and other neurodegenerative diseases, which is actually how I convinced my mom to get on it. Not to mention the whole host of other reasons why women, especially older women, postmenopausal women, should be taking it. But that's a separate discussion in itself. Then, on top of muscle, we're talking now strength or endurance, now brain health. Another area where creatine shows promise is in metabolic function as well as glucose regulation. Now, some studies suggest that creatine supplementation may enhance insulin sensitivity as well as glucose uptake, which could have implications for individuals at risk for, let's say, metabolic disorders such as type 2 diabetes, as an example, and can be highly beneficial as well for people trying to build muscle and stay lean. And finally, creatine is one of the most cost effective supplements available. So, unlike you got these some expensive supplements, overhyped supplements, creatine monohydrate is affordable and has been extensively researched for both its safety and its efficacy. So, when considering the ROI, the return on investment on creatine, it has got to rank amongst the best, if not the number one supplement for improving both physical and cognitive performance and preventing neurodegenerative diseases down the line. So just to recap, we get an increase in muscle growth, we get increased strength, increased endurance, improved recovery, improved brain health and cognitive function, and improved cognitive function when you're sleep deprived. So it can almost bring you back to baseline. Say those days you wake up just mental fog is not it. You slept like shit. Creatine can actually help you get back to where you would potentially be at your baseline had you had a good sleep, which I think is pretty fascinating. And then we also can see potentially improved insulin sensitivity and glucose uptake. It makes our muscles look bigger, and not to mention, it's cost effective, extremely safe, and one of the most well studied supplements in the world. Now, the only reason you wouldn't take creatine is that your gym bro told you a complete myth, which I will debunk right now. So, the first is that creatine harms the kidneys. This is the common ones. My doctor actually told me this like 5 years ago, which is quite shocking. And this stems between the confusion between creatine and creatinine. Creatinine is a waste product that the kidneys filter from the blood, and elevated creatinine levels can indicate kidney dysfunction, but this is not the same as taking creatine as a supplement. Numerous long-term studies have shown that creatine does not cause kidney damage in healthy individuals, and the only people who should be cautious are those with pre-existing kidney disease, and even then, research is still inconclusive on whether creatine is harmful in those cases. Another common concern, like my my boy had, is that creatine causes hair loss. This myth originated from a single small study on rugby players, which reported a slight increase in what's called dihydrotestosterone, otherwise known as DHT levels, and that hormone is linked to male pattern baldness. However, no study has since replicated these findings, and no direct link between creatine and hair loss has been established. Now, the next super common myth many people believe is that creatine causes bloating, or I've heard dehydration, and this again, completely misunderstood. So, because creatine pulls water into the muscle cells, not under the skin. So, this will enhance your fullness, make your muscles look bigger, and improve your hydration. And it won't go to the extracellular water, which is what people refer to when they think about the bloated. So, creatine's going into the muscle cell, not the layer of water between the muscle cell and your skin. That's completely different. Now, what people often, I would say, this stems from is their sodium to potassium ratio, which we could get into another video, but essentially they're not consuming enough potassium or potentially consuming way too much sodium. Now, another question that often arises is whether you need to load creatine, if it's worth it, like taking 20 to 25 grams per day for the first week before dropping to a maintenance dose of 5 grams. And while loading will help saturate the muscle stores faster, it's not necessarily, I don't recommend it for my clients. I personally didn't, and a daily dose of 5 grams will achieve full saturation within only a few weeks. So the only reason to load is if you want to experience the benefits, let's say, like a little more quickly. Do I think it's necessary? No, but can you? If you want to, absolutely. And finally, some people worry about weight gain from creatine. While creatine does lead to an increase in water retention, again, like we spoke about within the muscle cells, this is not the same as gaining fat. In fact, this increase in the intracellular water supports muscle function, the look of your muscle, and of course, overall recovery. So, if anything, the additional weight gain is very good, not a bad thing by any stretch. So, how can you take creatine for the best results? Let's call it the optimal results. Well, creatine monohydrate is the best and most researched form to take. As for timing, creatine can be taken any time of the day, but some studies suggest that taking it post-workout with carbohydrates and protein may potentially enhance uptake. However, I would not be too concerned about timing at all. Consistency is far more important. So whether you take it in the morning before bed, inch workout, post-workout, the key is just to take it daily. I personally just take it in my either my morning drink with my electrolytes or in my intra workout. Sometimes I'll do both. Again, sometimes I run up the dose all the way to 15 grams a day if I didn't sleep well, just again for those cognitive function improvements. And nope, last, kind of myth, not really, but there's absolutely no need to cycle off. You don't need to cycle on and off creatine. You stay on, and you stay on forever. And that wraps up today's quick podcast on creatine. Hopefully, you go get some creatine. Like I said, even my mom takes creatine. So let's get that supplement in your plan. I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.